You ever have one of those nights where you walk in expecting one thing, only to have your entire life flip upside down before you can even catch your breath? Yeah, this is that story, the kind you think only happens to other people until it happens to you. And you find yourself standing in the middle of a crowd, realizing the person you love most is actually a stranger. I still remember my hands shaking as I fumbled with my keys, dead on my feet after a 12-hour shift at the hospital, barely enough energy to make it up the front steps, but pushing through like always because that's what I did. Make it work, keep going, don't fall apart. But that night, the universe had a different plan, and all the warning signs in the world wouldn't have prepared me for what was about to go down. So, I'm standing there about to unlock the door, and I hear real music, not the kind you play in your kitchen after a long day, but loud, happy, thumping music. Which is weird, because our neighborhood was the kind of place where the only thing louder than the crickets was Mrs. Peterson's dog barking at the mailman. But this was different. Celebration music. I could feel it in my bones. Instead of going inside, I followed the sound, my curiosity pulling me along with something else I didn't want to name yet. That music led me right down the block to the community center, the one Marcus and I once dreamed about for our own wedding reception when we could finally afford it. You know? The parking lot was wall-to-wall with luxury cars, the kind that had never touched a cracked sidewalk on our street. My stomach twisted. Marcus had mentioned a company event tonight, something about celebrating his promotion, but he'd brushed off the details, said it would be boring. He seemed almost relieved when I said my shift would keep me away. Looking at that crowd, all dolled up and glittering, I knew there was nothing boring about it. Peeking through the big windows, I could see people dancing, women in gorgeous dresses, men in crisp suits, all glowing like something big was happening. The kind of joy you only get with once-in-a-lifetime news. I almost turned around, thinking this wasn't my scene, but then I saw him, Marcus. Not in his regular work shirt and tie, but a tux so sharp it looked rented, standing right up front and holding hands with a woman in a wedding dress. You ever have your brain stop working just for a split second? That was my legs frozen, face pressed to the glass, telling myself I was seeing things, that exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But no, that was Marcus, the man who'd kissed me goodbye that morning, promised to call during my lunch break, the same man who'd been sharing my bed and dreams for 3 years. The woman beside him, she was stunning, like magazine cover beautiful, the sort of effortless, untouched look you only get with money. Mid-20s, perfect teeth, hair that probably cost more than my rent, just radiating that bridal happiness. She looked at Marcus like he was her whole world. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might pass out. Maybe it was a theme party, maybe they were staging something for the office, but then Marcus kissed her right there, in front of everyone, and the crowd lost it, cheering, clapping, shouting congratulations. And just like that, the world tilted sideways. I didn't think. I just walked through the main doors, still in my scrubs, hair in a messy bun, hospital badge clipped on like some twisted name tag in a dream I couldn't wake up from. People turned to stare, faces morphing from curiosity to confusion to pure pity. The noise faded and everything felt underwater, except the sound of blood rushing in my ears. When Marcus saw me, he turned white as a ghost and actually took a step back. The bride, still glowing, looked at me like I was some puzzle she couldn't solve. "Marcus, what's going on?" I managed, though my voice didn't even sound like mine. The music cut off. Dancing stopped. Every single person turned to look at the woman in scrubs who'd crashed a wedding. "You're supposed to be at work," Marcus stammered, voice cracking. I was. My shift just ended. That's when I started noticing all the little details: wedding banners, a giant cake, party favors on every table. "Whose wedding is this, Marcus?" The bride stepped forward, her tone gentle but sharp. "I'm sorry, who are you?" And I almost laughed at her rough, broken sound. "I'm his girlfriend, Ingelina. We've lived together for 3 years." Her face crumpled. She turned to Marcus, betrayal etched deep. "You said you were single. You said you'd never had a serious relationship." Marcus couldn't answer. He looked like a man drowning in his own lies. Nothing left to hold on to. I felt something cold settle inside me. "How long have you been planning this?" I demanded, but all he could manage was, "Elena, please, it's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. Looks like you're married to someone else. Looks like you've been lying to me for months, maybe years. Looks like I've been working double shifts to pay our bills while you built a whole new life without me. Now the bride was crying, mascara running, and I recognized that particular kind of heartbreak, the kind that comes when the world rips itself open. An older man, probably her dad, stepped in, angry and confused. "Marcus, you told us there were no complications." Marcus blurted out, "There aren't. Elena and I are just friends." She's confused. That's when I pulled out my phone, showing photos, Christmas, birthdays, hospital fundraisers, proof we'd been together, proof he'd introduced me as his girlfriend to my coworkers. The bride's father's face darkened with every photo. "You lied to us. You lied to my daughter. You took her money for your business, and you took hers too." Marcus tried to talk, but the room was done listening. "You used my money to court her, to buy her gifts, to pay for this wedding?" I asked, the realization cutting deep. The silence was brutal. Finally, the bride yanked off her ring, threw it at him. "Get away from me. Get away from all of us." I watched Marcus flounder, scrambling for excuses, still more worried about his career than the women he'd hurt. That was his true face self-preservation, no shame. I turned to him. "I hope you get everything you deserve." To the bride, "You deserve better. I'm sorry you had to find out like this." And I walked out with my head up, only to fall apart in the parking lot, sobbing for 3 years I'd lost, for a man I never really knew, for a future that was never mine. Back at the apartment, my apartment, as it turned out, I packed his things with careful hands, not for him, but for my own dignity. Found a stack of wedding invitations, months old. Found bank statements showing money from the bride's family, keeping Marcus afloat. And my own statements, money always flowing out, never coming back. By sunrise, his stuff was by the door. I changed the locks, canceled every card he'd touched. When he showed up, all desperate and hollow, begging to talk, I barely cracked the door. "Your things are with the manager," I said. "You don't understand, the marriage isn't legal. We never filed the paperwork." Still lying. Still twisting. I told him, "It doesn't matter. Legal or not, you made your choice. You lied to me. You took my money, built a life with someone else. Let me believe I mattered." "I love you," he said. "No, you love what I did for you. But you don't love me." And I closed the door. He knocked for an hour, but I was done. 3 months later, I ran into Sarah, the bride from that night. Without the dress and makeup, she looked younger, softer, more real. She thanked me for telling the truth. Turns out, Marcus was seeing even more women. Her father had him investigated after the wedding fiasco. "Are you okay?" she asked. And for the first time, I could say, "I'm better than okay. I'm free. I wanted things now, real things. Go back to school, become a nurse practitioner, travel, fall in love with someone honest, matter to someone who mattered to me." Sarah was in grad school for social work, hoping to help women like us. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't walked in?" she asked. I told her I'd have found out eventually. The truth always comes out. But I'm glad I saw it all at once. Any regrets? Only that I didn't value myself enough to leave sooner. But you can't change the past. You can only choose what comes next. A year later, I got into a nurse practitioner program 3 states away, paid for by my own hard-earned savings. On my last day at the hospital, my supervisor hugged me tight. "You take care of everyone else, Elena. Now, go take care of yourself." Driving away with everything I owned in the trunk, I thought about the woman I used to be Simeon, who thought love meant sacrifice, who thought she had to be useful to be worthy. Now, I know love should be a partnership, not a transaction. You deserve someone who chooses you, not just takes from you. As I headed out of town, I got a text from David, a resident I'd met in my last month at the hospital. Believed in me, wanted to see me happy. I realized I was finally living for myself, and for the first time in years, that felt like the most natural thing in the world. So what would you have done? Would you have walked away, or would you have stayed and fought for someone who never fought for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about what we owe ourselves and what it really means to choose your own happiness. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. Stay strong out there. You never know when your life is about to begin again.